Hi guys, buenos dias. Welcome to Wondering Wednesdays with Mrs. Walker. That's me. I was inspired at one of my conferences and to start this as a way to help expose you guys to some new books, share with you some new books from our library or old books from the library that you guys haven't read yet. So I thought this would be a fun way to do it because I don't see you guys every day in class, to send you a video that you could watch. So today's title is an author that I got to meet at my Tassel conference last week. He was really cool. He and I even got in a discussion over which genre we think this book best fits in. And of course, I thought it fit best with adventure, and so did he. But some people put it in mystery and all sorts of things, but we liked it in adventure. So here is the book. The book is titled City of Spies by James Ponti. He's a really cool author, and this is the first book in his series. I believe there are currently 4. We have 3 in the library, so stop by and see me if you decide this is a book you want to check out. So, like I said, this is City of Spies by James Ponti, and the back of the book says, "I'm not joking," he said. "I'm an agent of the British Secret Intelligence Service, known as MI6. I command an elite team that is only sent out on high-priority missions. And one of those high-priority missions was keeping me out of juvenile detention," she replied suspiciously. "It wasn't a mission so much as it was a recruitment, an emergency one at that. We're about to go out in the field for critical operations, and we've discovered that we need one more person on our team, and we thought we'd come over and see if that person was you." So here we go. Chapter 1. See, here's his signature where he signed the book for us. Chapter 1. A Man Called Mother. Sarah looked at the water stain on the wall and imagined it was an island. She wasn't sure if that was because it looked just like one, or maybe because she desperately wished she was on some tropical paradise far away from Brooklyn and this tiny room on the 8th floor of Kings County Family Court. She sat across the table from her public defender, a massive man in a rumpled suit named Randall Stubbs. His bulky frame hunched over as he scanned her file. "This doesn't look good," he muttered, because stating the obviously apparently was something they taught you to do in law school. "You're lucky they've made such a generous offer." "They have?" Sarah asked, surprised. "What was it?" He looked over the file and said, "You plead guilty to all the charges and get 30 months in juvenile detention." 2.5 years in juvie didn't sound generous to Sarah, but it probably wasn't much worse than her last few foster homes. She was tough for a 12-year-old. She could handle it. "And of course," he said, "you won't be allowed near a computer." This, however, was unacceptable. "For how long?" "For the duration of your sentence. It may be longer as a condition of your release. That'll be up to the judge." "But what I did was..." "What?" he interrupted. "Hack into the computer network of the entire juvenile justice system of New York City." "What was that you were going to say?" "Because that's not what I'd call all I did situation." "I know. I was only trying to..." "It doesn't matter what you were trying to do," he said. "All that matters is what you did. You're lucky you're 12. If you'd been 13, they probably would have bumped you to a higher court to make an example out of you." The weight of this hit her hard. For the first time, she regretted her actions, not because they were against the law, legal or not. She had no doubt she'd done the right thing. But she'd never considered that she could be banished from one corner of the world that made sense to her. The only time Sarah felt at home was when she was sitting in front of a keyboard screen. "I'll never hack again," she said. "I promise." "Oh, you promise," he responded sarcastically. "Maybe if you cross your heart and hope to die once we get in court, that'll fix everything." Sarah struggled when it came to controlling her temper, a diagnosis confirmed by multiple counselors and at least 2 school psychologists. Still, she tried to keep her cool as she looked at the man who was supposed to be helping her. She couldn't risk angering him because he was her only hope for a positive outcome. So she took a deep breath, counted to 10. A tip from one of the counselors whose name she'd long since forgotten. If I can't use a computer, she said, barely masking her desperation, then I can't do the one thing I'm good at, the thing that makes me special. Yeah, well, you should have thought of that before you. She probably would have lost her temper right then and there if the door hadn't suddenly flown open and into the room stepped a man who was in every way the opposite of her attorney. He was tall, thin, with a thatch of unruly black hair. His suit was impeccable. His tie matched his pocket square, and he spoke with a British accent. I'm so sorry, he said politely, but I believe you're in my seat. You've got that a wrong room, said Stubbs. Now, if you don't mind, I'm having a conference with my client. Except, according to the substitution of counsel form, she's my client, the other man replied as he showed Stubbs a piece of paper that brought an instant smile to Sarah's face. Stubbs eyed the man. That doesn't make any sense. She can't afford a fancy lawyer like you. She doesn't have any money. Of course she doesn't have any money. She's 12. 12-year-olds don't have money. They have bicycles and rutsch snacks. This one, however, also happens to have an attorney, and this paper says I've been retained to represent Miss Sarah Maria Martinez. He turned to her and said, Is that you? Yes, sir. Brilliant. That means I'm in the right place. Who retained you? Asked the public defender. An interested party, the man said. Beyond that, it's not your concern. So if you'll please leave, Sarah and I have much to talk about. We're due before the judge shortly. Stubbs mumbled to himself and shoved his papers into his briefcase. I'm going to check this out. There's a lovely lady named Valerie who can help you, the British man said. She's with the clerk of the county court on the 7th floor. I know where she is, Stubbs snapped as he squeezed past the man into the hallway. He started to say something else, but instead made a frustrated noise and stormed off. Once Stubbs was gone, the new attorney closed the door and sat across from Sarah. I've never seen that before, he marveled. He literally left the room in a huff. She had no idea who might have hired this attorney for her, but she was certainly happy for the change. I've never seen it either. Now tell me, he said, as he popped open the latches to a briefcase. Is it true? Did you hack into the computers of the city juvenile justice system? She hesitated to answer. No need to worry. Attorney-client privilege forbids me from telling anyone what you say in here. I just need to know if it's true. She gave a slight nod. Yes, it's true. Brilliant, he said with a wink. He pulled a small computer from his briefcase and handed it to her. I need you to do it again. Do what again? She asked. Hack into the juvenile justice database. He said, I need you to make me your attorney of record before Stubbs gets to the 7th floor and checks for himself. You mean you're not my attorney? She asked. Never set foot in a law school, he said conspiratorially. So chop chop, I've got an associate who's going to delay him in the hallway, but she's only available to do that for so long. Sarah's head was spinning. She didn't know what to think. Listen, I don't know who you are, but the court's supposed to assign me a lawyer, a real one. And the chap with the mustard stain on his tie is the one that's assigned, he replied, shaking his. I don't know about you, but I'm not particularly impressed. Over the last 9 years, that same court has assigned you 6 foster families and 9 schools. It's been one botched job after another. What do you say we try something new? She looked at him and then the computer. She was tempted, but she was so confused. I don't think... What did he say would happen? He interrupted. I bet he already worked out the deal with the prosecutor. 2.5 years in juvie, and I'm banned from using a computer. He shook his head. I can do better than that, even without a law degree. For reasons she didn't fully understand, Sarah believed him. Maybe it was wishful thinking. Maybe it was desperation. Either way, she trusted her gut and started typing. Excellent, he said. You probably won't regret this. Probably? Shouldn't you be trying to build up my confidence? Only fools and liars speak with certainty about things that are beyond their control, he replied. But I'm optimistic, so I'll rate your chances around 87%. Sarah smiled and continued typing. What kind of computer is this? Bestoke, he answered. I thought I knew all computer companies, but I've never heard of that one. It's not a company, he said. Bestoke means something that's been tailor-made to the specific needs of an individual. Someone made this for you? He nodded. Well, whoever bestoke it really knew what they were doing. Wait until you see the massive one. You're going to love it. That is, if we're both not behind bars by the end of the day. Sarah knew computers well. but she had never seen one like this. It was fast and powerful. She quickly shredded through the firewall that was supposed to protect the juvenile justice portal. "They didn't even fix the back door I used the other day," she said in disbelief. "Large institutions move slowly," he said. "Hopefully large attorneys do too." It took her less than 2 minutes to reach the database for the attorney assignments. He happily deleted the entry for Randall Stubbs and then asked, "What's your name?" "Excellent question," he said. He pulled 3 passports out of his briefcase. "Which sounds best?" He read the first one. "Cordell St. Vincent Marthrow III. He gave a sour face. "It seems a bit excessive, don't you think?" "Yes. We'll pass on that one." He read the next one. "Nigel Honeybuns." This one made him snicker. "Honeybuns? I quite like that." He tucked it into his pocket in the briefcase. "I think I'll save that one for another time." "We're kind of in a hurry," she reminded him. "Right, here we go." He said, reading the last one. "Gerald Anderson." "That sounds like a proper barrister. Dull, boring, immediately forgettable. And that's exactly what we want. My name is Gerald Anderson." She handed him the password so she could check the spelling and quickly typed it into the database. "I just click update," she said, "and we're set." He flashed a nervous smile and paused to listen. No alarms. He opened the door and leaned to the hallway. "No one rushing to arrest us?" "Nice work, Sarah. Except now I have an attorney who's never gone to law school. I've watched tons of courtroom dramas on the telly. I can handle an appearance before the judge." "Don't you mean probably?" she replied. He smiled with this. "Right, probably. First, though, I'll need details about the hack." "I'm sure they're all in there," she said, pointing in the file. "Well, this only tells me what you did. I want to know the reason." "The lawyer, the one who actually went to law school, said it didn't matter why I did it." "It may not matter to him. It may not even matter to the judge, but it matters very much to me." She thought about her answer for a moment, trying to come up with the most straightforward way to tell it. She didn't want to get upset. She hated showing emotions in front of anyone. "My most recent foster parents, Leonard and Deborah Clark." "Yeah, them," she said with a sneer. "They like to take in more kids than they have room for because the state pays them by the kid. The more kid means more money, whether they spend it on us or not. No one really checks that. We're crammed into bedrooms that are too small. Rather than give everyone a meal, they put food in the middle of the table so it looked like there was more than there was, and they called it family style, which is a joke because they treated us anything but like family. A new kid named Gabriel came about a month ago. He was scared, sad, and lonely. Everything you'd expect from a 5-year-old. He liked it because we were the only Hispanic kids in his house." "You spoke Spanish to him?" "Sometimes. Then until they made us stop. Mr. Clark told me, 'You're an American now, so speak English is something you're going to have to get used to.'" The lawyer shook his head. "And what did you say to that?" "I pointed out that Puerto Rico was already part of America, and I'd spent most of my life in Brooklyn, and that if he really wanted to speak English well, he needed to end sentences with prepositions." The man laughed. "Cheeky. I'm not exactly sure what cheeky means, but his cheeks turned red, so I guess so." "Did you get in trouble?" he asked. She nodded, the humor gone for a moment. "I could handle his punishment, though. It was Gabriel that couldn't." "Why was Gabriel punished?" She paused and saw him studying her expression, and she wanted to watch her eyes as she spoke. "One night he wet the bed," she answered, "and to punish him, they locked him in the hall closet. I could hear him crying. They didn't care. They wouldn't let him out all night. So I got up and let him out." "And then what happened?" "They locked me in the closet with me and told me I had to learn my place. So I picked the lock from the inside and let us both out." She was on the verge of tears and she stopped for a moment. "And then?" "They locked us outside on the roof. They left us all night. It was cold. It was terrifying. The next morning I went to the school, got a pass to the computer lab, and started working. First, I hacked the juvenile justice database to see how many kids had been sent to the Clarks. Then I hacked their bank accounts to show how much money they were taking in and where they were spending it." "You're not being charged for hacking the bank," he said, and flipped through some pages. "Yeah, they dropped the complaint. I'm pretty sure they don't want the world to find out a 12-year-old girl beat their security system." "Nice. I might be able to use that later. What did you do with the information you had gotten it?" "I sent everything to my social worker." "And you know how Stupid I am. I saw the police coming to the house and I thought they were going to arrest the two of them. For about 45 seconds I was happy. But they arrested you instead. She nodded. The Clarks even had the other kids line up on the porch so they could see me being led out of the house in handcuffs. She closed her eyes tight, determined not to let a single tear fall. They said, "This is what happens to criminals." He'd actually heard the story the night before through a listening device, but he always liked to hear stories twice. He wanted to see if they had changed. It was always a good indicator about how truthful they were. Besides, seeing her face and how she recalled it told him everything he needed to know. "That's a good reason," he said. "I can work with that. I can make this better." "Don't you mean probably?" she asked. "No, I'm certain I can. I don't need you to do something difficult, something the reports in the file say you're not completely capable of." "What's that?" "I need you to trust me. No matter what I do or say, I need you to trust me." "How can I trust you?" she asked. "I don't even know your name." "Sure you do. It's Nigel Honeybuns, it's Gerald Anderson, and sometimes it's Conroy St. Vincent Marlborough III. It just depends on the situation," he said with a shrug. "But my friends and colleagues, and I do hope that the group you'll soon consider to be yourself part of, they call me Mother." For the first time since she was arrested, Sarah laughed. "Mother? Well, that's an unusual name for a man." "True," he said, smiling at her. "But I'm an unusual man, wouldn't you say?" And that brings us to chapter 2. So, if you're interested in reading this book, come on down to the library and check it out. I look forward to seeing you during our next library time.